Hey there everyone, how's it going? In this video we're delving into the fascinating connections between stress, depression and brain health. We're also taking a closer look at the intriguing link between type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's, shedding light on how insulin plays a crucial role in brain health and the prevention of neurodegenerative diseases. Enjoy the video.
And today we found out that it's already well characterized in the scientific literature, in scientific articles, and in scientific journals, that a person with depression, their body and brain react chemically very similarly to someone who is experiencing chronic stress. In other words, it's not the kind of stress where you snap, but it's always a sense of worry, always an emotional reactivity to everyday situations. So you become very explosive at times, or you get very bothered by things that didn't bother you before. Many people aren't aware of this, but today stress is the primary risk factor for the development of depression.
Because it keeps coming in tiny doses, right?
Not quite so small, because in small doses, it's actually protective. What I did was induce stress in organisms in a laboratory setting. I work with animal models. These organisms develop depression or something very similar to depression. Just to make it clear, our work and environment are fully regulated by the competent authorities. We observe that these animals develop a depression-like phenotype, a depressive-type behavior. And when you look at the brains of these animals, it's very similar to what happens in the brains of people with depression. So there's a very interesting translation. It's really quite similar. And I demonstrated, other researchers have also shown, I replicated these data from my master's degree, that if you subject these stressed animals to an enriched environment, what is that? You provide physical exercise for these animals, you give them Legos, little boxes for them to build houses, a slightly more enriched environment with stimuli. This environmental enrichment prevents the development of depression in these animals. And then you might ask me, but how does it prevent it? The main point that researchers argue is that. Now let's think about humans. When you provide a slightly more complex environment for organisms to live in, they have to adapt to that environment. Our central nervous system is essentially an organ. Our brain, along with our spinal cord, is essentially a collection of regions that allow us to receive stimuli, encode these stimuli, and generate a response to them. So, for example, you're a comedian. When you're delivering a joke in a stand-up performance, you're practicing it, and you're receiving feedback on whether it's working or not. If it's working, you can start investing more in that path of your joke because the audience is giving you positive feedback. When you're playing the guitar, if you hit a wrong note, your ear hears it, interprets it, encodes it, and you adjust the motor control of your hand to try to produce the correct note. So, subjecting an organism to a slightly more enriched environment is somewhat stressful because you have to deal with these situations. And this small stress in small doses protects the animal for future stress. It's somewhat like a person who faced a lot in life from an early age. And in adulthood, they are very resilient. Hardly anything shakes them. Researchers call this stress inoculation, which is a process that occurs. For example, when you get vaccinated, you inoculate the virus by injecting it into your body so that your body isn't affected by the virus. If you expose yourself to small stressful situations starting from, let's say, 12 or 14 years old, you begin to build protection against future stressors, and your body kind of becomes stronger in facing them. And that's what I demonstrated. I showed that if you protect the animals with small doses of stress beforehand, a future stressor is incapable of inducing depression in these animals.
Even if it's a very potent stressor.
Yes, even if it's a very potent stressor. And we demonstrated that if you subject yourself to or enrich your environment, the likelihood of developing depression through stress is lower. And this can be translated to the current pandemic situation. The pandemic is a major stressor, so those individuals who, for example, have dealt with living alone extensively before, who have never been heavily reliant on social contact, might be protected today. So, I studied this during my master's, and today I'm researching the effect of hypercaloric diets, rich in fat and sugar, on the development of depression and memory loss. It has been known for a long time that consuming this type of food increases the probability, particularly when combined with a sedentary lifestyle, of developing type 2 diabetes dramatically. So, your body will eventually not be able to cope with the pressure. Your pancreas can secrete insulin efficiently initially. Then you consume a sugary bomb every day. The pancreas deals with this bomb, delivers it to the cells, and uses it. But over time, it ends up receiving too much insulin and stops functioning properly. Then your body either stops receiving insulin or the pancreas reduces its secretion. It was observed as early as the 1990s in epidemiological studies that involve large groups of people that individuals with type 2 diabetes have a higher likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease, which is a neurodegenerative disorder characterized by memory loss. Why is it neurodegenerative? Our brain has cells like any other part of the body, but the cells in our brain are highly functional and specialized. We call them neurons. These brain cells also consume glucose, and insulin acts on these cells as well. So, back in the 1990s, it was discovered that individuals with type 2 diabetes who have issues with insulin secretion and action in the body have an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is a condition that causes neurons to drastically lose their functionality, and as a result, they gradually die off. And more recently, it was found that individuals with high blood sugar levels also have an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is extensively studied worldwide because it's a disease that currently has no cure. Treatments are very limited, and the primary risk factor is the aging population. Studies have revealed that the hormones secreted by the pancreas is also present in our brain. You have it in your brain. However, unlike neurons, our brain doesn't require insulin to allow the passage of glucose. In our body cells, glucose, the sugar, can only enter if insulin is bound to the receptor. If insulin isn't bound, it won't enter. This is a condition of insulin resistance in diabetics. In the brain, there's a transporter that doesn't require insulin, yet insulin is still present. So, people began to wonder, if it's not necessary for glucose transport, what is it doing here? People began to notice that insulin is extremely important for the process of neuroplasticity in the brain, which involves the physical changes in the brain in response to our experiences, as well as for memory storage. Researchers also started observing that the brain of a person with Alzheimer's exhibits a condition of insulin resistance, similar to what a diabetic person experiences in their muscles. Because of this, many researchers refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. So, recently, a network of doctors has emerged, studying the possibility of using diabetes medications for the treatment of Alzheimer's. This is to see if it also protects the person's brain. I am one of these researchers, and I am working in this field. However, there is still no official treatment. Please do not use diabetes medication to treat any form of dementia, neither Alzheimer's nor memory loss. Today, the idea is being studied that if Alzheimer's is neurochemically similar to type 2 diabetes, we might attempt to treat Alzheimer's in a similar way to how we treat type 2 diabetes and observe the outcomes. Now let's delve a bit further for those who study chemical and neurochemical physiology. When you eat and food passes through the pancreas, it detects an increase in calories, observes that there's a lot of sugar, and releases insulin. The released insulin enters the bloodstream and travels to your muscles. Insulin binds to the cell's membrane and joins the receptor. When it binds to the receptor, it's like a key fitting into a lock. It triggers a cascade of intracellular signaling within the cell, where one molecule starts communicating with another. It's like insulin communicated up there, and I'm the molecule below the receptor, here representing the cell. The studio is the cell now, so insulin binds up there, and I saw that it bound. I said, Arthur, insulin has bound, go and tell Caio. Then you go and tell Caio, and Caio informs Julia. Julia goes and signals to open the entry door for glucose to enter the cell. So insulin signals here, and we signal all the others, and the cell's entry door opens, allowing glucose to enter. In the brain, insulin triggers a similar cascade in neurons, but at the end, it doesn't signal glucose to enter. Instead, it signals the formation of a memory. And if insulin didn't bind up there, how are we going to signal and create this cascade here? Without that, you can't learn. That's one of the variables in Alzheimer's. And there are several other issues that occur within the cell, causing the neuron to be unable to uptake energy and eventually leading to its inability to survive. Over time, it dies.